Hi, and welcome back to Politodoxy. I'm your host, Aaron Friedman. Well, it happened. Donald Trump is off the ballot in Colorado because 9 Democrat-appointed Supreme Court justices decided that what happened in the Capitol on January 6th was an insurrection. So we will be discussing this. And first, I want to point out that we have a new microphone system, a new recording system. So I hope everything is coming in very clearly. And we'll be using this system from now on. So I hope everything is working out perfectly. All right. So let's discuss this. So what we have here is a insurrection of sorts from the 9 Supreme Court justices of the Colorado Supreme Court deciding that Donald Trump is not fit to run on in Colorado. And the Colorado GOP said that they would make it they would withdraw from the primary as a party and convert to a pure caucus system if this is allowed to stand. So I'm glad to see that they're showing some spine, which I replied to them that they should be careful because Ronna McDaniel wouldn't like them. They're showing too much spine. So let's discuss this first about the insurrection part. How about this? Let's first discuss actually the Democrats' history of stealing elections. Let's go back to the 1800s. When was it? 1886 election? When was it? Rutherford B. Hayes against Samuel Tilden. And we have a whole bunch of things that we could discuss on that front, but we're just going to talk about the sheer fact that Democrats, they shout that actually it was Samuel Tilden who should have won that election because the Republicans had military governors in the South because of their treason, again, Democratic treason against the United States. I mean, the Democrats have a long history of treason. I mean, you could just go back to the 50s as well, seeing and during the McCarthy era, our great Senator Joe McCarthy exposing the Democrats for who they really were. Anyway, so there was a long history of Democratic treason. But anyway, so Samuel Tilden, was supposed to win according to certain so-called scholars because the Republicans were doing all kinds of shenanigans in the South, which is true. But here's the problem: that the Democrats, they failed to mention, those same scholars failed to mention that the Democrats were suppressing the black vote in the South, which was overwhelmingly Republican. So if you take away the shenanigans from the Republican side and you take away the Democratic shenanigans from the Democrat side, what happens is Samuel Tilden loses and Rutherford B. Hayes wins. Anyway, so what happened in that election? There were 2 sets of electors was appointed, and long story short is nothing happened. The Republican won, and they came to a compromise where they would withdraw from the South, the military governors, and they would let the Democrats rule and impose their democratic values on the black populace of the South. So with that is one of the things that we can discuss. So right over there, we can see that we decided that, no, actually, there's 2 slates of electors, but we're not going to create all this chaos. We're actually going to come to a compromise for better or for worse. You could decide for if it was the right thing to do or not. But there was no Supreme Court that decided, no, actually, they are false electors, so we need to throw them in prison and so on and so forth. No, we would actually come to a compromise and try to figure out exactly where we go forward because we don't want another civil war. But apparently Democrats nowadays, they really are gearing up for a civil war. I remember when they shouted that Donald Trump is going to destroy this country. Donald Trump is going to destroy this country repeatedly over and over again. Then in 2020, they said, screw it, we're just going to do it. Donald Trump is not doing it. We should do it. Anyway, so on that point about Democrats destroying this country, them being the traitors, and then stealing elections, we could actually go back to, let's say, the 1960s. They stole the election. By the way, even before that, when Lyndon Johnson stole the election, also in Texas, he stole the election. He was walking around the graveyard collecting names, so he would have people who said that they voted, dead voters. Literally, you can look this up. Lyndon Baines Johnson, he was running for Senate, and he collected names Yep, Democrats have a history of doing this. So when Republicans in 2020 said that, hey, Democrats, looks like there are a lot of dead voters here, Democrats are getting votes from dead voters, it's not that they pulled it out of nowhere. There's a history behind this. Then you could go to the 1960 election where they stole it from Richard Nixon. And you could look at Illinois. That's the main place where we're looking at where they stole the election. But also a lot of shenanigans happened in Texas. Although I do believe the shenanigans happened, but I don't believe that it would have been enough to actually swing Texas in and of itself. But maybe. But what we're really looking at is Illinois. So the Democratic mayor declared that Kennedy was the winner even before anything has happened. So Democrats have a history. They have a history of stealing elections. But what I would like to talk about here in Ann Coulter's book, it is Never Trust a Liberal Over 3. I could just say Never Trust a Liberal, period. And bear with me. We've already made an episode on this, but we're going to discuss this just one more time. And bear with me here because I have dyslexia, so this is going to be a little bit hard, but bear with me, and you're going to see here the treachery of the Democrat Party. And you're going to find out a lot of interesting things here. All right. I'm going to start right in the middle of one of the chapters. So here goes. Consider a few other chilling examples of Democrats thieving their way to victory over the years. In 1974, Republican Louis Wyman won his race for U.S. Senate in New Hampshire, beating Democrat John Durkin by 355 votes. Durkin demanded a recount, which went back and forth by a handful of votes until the state's ballot law commission concluded that Wyman had indeed won by at least 2 votes. Wyman was certified the winner by the New Hampshire Secretary of State and was on his way to Washington when the overwhelmingly Democratic U.S. Senate refused to seat Wyman. Interesting. This is pretty interesting. Let's continue. Despite New Hampshire's certification of Wyman as the winner of the election, this was the post-Watergate Senate, when Democrats could get away with anything, including a madcap prank known as President Jimmy Carter. The United States Senate spent months examining disputed ballots from the New Hampshire election, unable to come up with a method to declare the Democrat the winner that didn't involve a guillotine. The United States Senate forced New Hampshire to hold another election. It was a breathtaking abuse of power. New Hampshire had certified a winner of its Senate election, but it was a Republican. So the Democratic Senate simply ordered a new election. Demoralized Republicans stayed away from the race, and this time the Democrat won the revote. So this is a very peculiar story because this is the Senate deciding that we could do an election do-over. Because, we don't really know that the Republican won. I mean, he has been certified, yes, but is he really the winner of the election? So what is this? Why am I bringing this up? First of all, Democrats stealing elections, duh. But there's another point here. Remember when Donald Trump said that the vice president has the power to overturn elections, or at the very least, turn back the electors. The electors to the Senate, to the Senate, and the Senate should return them back to the states and do a revote or another election. And Democrats said it was crazy. Democrats already did that in the past, 1974. Democrats did that with the senator. So let me ask you, why can't they do it with the presidency? You've already established the principle. You've already established the precedent. Why not do it with the president? Peculiar, isn't it? See, Democrats can get away with anything. Republicans can't. This is an absolute abuse of power. But why am I talking about this? I'll tell you right now. Because when Donald Trump said that the vice president should be able to do that, he was correct. If this is the precedent, then he is correct. Now, personally, I don't think so. Because if that would be the case, then literally every vice president would send back, from that point on, the electors, and whoever is in charge will just make sure that only the electors that they want would get elected. So I don't think that the vice president should have that power, and therefore I don't believe that the founding fathers actually gave the vice president that power. But with this precedent, well, he does have that power. You have established that the Senate could decide if they want to return votes, and they literally did that in 1974. So, yes, the Senate does have that power, or at the very least, the Republicans should get a free pass on this one and get a Republican senator from New Hampshire without, I can't believe I'm saying this, if this is just for the trolling, without holding an election. Give the Republicans an extra senator. I mean, one of yours. You stole a senator from the Republicans in 1974. You shouldn't have done that. You should give them back their senator that you owe them. Anyway, this is just for the trolling. But on the serious note, is that with that being said, that the Senate could do that, how could it be an insurrection? He literally called for the peaceful protest. Why? That the Senate should send back the electors. How is that an insurrection? Because here's the main point. He cannot be an insurrection if there is still a legal way for him to win, you see? Because why would he risk it all? This is one of the main important points that nobody's actually talking about. Almost nobody knows this. Nobody's reading about this. Nobody's talking about this. But this is one very important point. That he had the power to overturn the election, or at the very least, have a revote. And he wanted that to happen. There is precedent, so that's what the protest was about. It got out of hand, full of feds were in the crowd, and BLM supporters as well. There were all kinds of shenanigans going on, and some Trump supporters, yes, who got out of hand, and they should be given the justice that they are owed. The vast majority were just marching around in the Capitol, just taking in the view, just being in the People's Building after, mind you, the 2020 riots, which, don't forget this, which was not a big deal. It was the summer of love. This was the January 6th of love. So, what we have here is Democrats being able to say that there was an insurrection, but in reality, there wasn't an insurrection. Throughout all the other evidence that we have, this is a legal argument to be made that Donald Trump would not have risked. He understood that we could have overturned the election. That's what, and maybe he didn't know this particular story, but he actually believed it, and he was right on the precedent. So with this, it cannot have been an insurrection. I can't believe I even have to make this stupid argument that it cannot have been an insurrection because of this. I think like I'm sounding like a nerd trying to explain it. Well, it couldn't be an insurrection because logic. Let's continue. Even more egregious was a 1984 congressional race in Indiana. On election night, the incumbent Democrat Frank McCloskey appeared to have won a razor-thin victory of 72 votes, but after a correction was made in one county, it turned out his Republican opponent, Richard McIntyre, had won by 34 votes. Republican McIntyre was certified the winner, which is when the trouble usually starts. Again, a majority Democrat House refused to seat the certified winner in a close election. I'm sure it was just a coincidence that the winner was a Republican. Consequently, Indiana performed yet another recount of the entire district, which again showed the Republican McIntyre was the winner, this time by 418 votes. As the Washington Post reported at the time, there were, quote, no allegations of fraud, unquote, in the recount, and 90% of ballot disqualifications had been agreed to, quote, by election commissions dominated by Democrats, unquote. So naturally, the House refused to see the Republican, even though he had received the most votes in the election, which in most jurisdictions would make him, the winner. This time, instead of ordering the district to hold another election, the Democratic House saved everyone a lot of trouble by simply declaring Democrat Frank McCloskey the winner by exactly 4 votes according to the House's count. Can you believe this? Can you believe this? So what we have here is Democrats stealing elections continuously. Democrats have a history of stealing elections. Donald Trump understood this, and we all understand this. Democrats steal elections, and Republicans are not allowed to say anything about it. And a lot of people on Twitter are like, Democrats steal elections, Democrats steal elections. And I'm like, okay, and what are you going to do about it? What is going to be done about it? You're wondering why the Democrats continuously do all these kinds of things? Because they get away with it, and you let them. Because you want to play nice, because you are pure. You're pure-hearted Republicans. You have to throw out... I can't believe it. Why? You have to throw out the guy from New York, George Santos, because, he lied, and nobody really knew what they were voting for, and there's other things that he's done with OnlyFans. I'm like, what do you think these politicians do in Washington, D.C. all day? What? OnlyFans? That's what you're gonna get him for? I mean, I don't like it. Of course I don't like it. But you think any of these other politicians are any better? You gotta be freaking kidding me. Seriously, that is what you're getting him on? Come on. You can do better than that. You're the deep state. You should be able to do better than that. But apparently Republicans would even fall for the weakest of arguments from the Democrats. So they expelled him. We're not gonna... Okay, so if you're going to expel him, can we at least get something in return? Like expel Adam Schiff, serial liar? Can we expel the pro-genocidal Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar? Can we expel them? Fair is fair. I'm sure there are others I'm forgetting right now, but there are others. And we've decided, no, we're not going to expel them. No, we're going to play nice because we need to be so pure. We are so pure. We are so good. You see, we throw out our own trash. Seriously. You guys are all a joke. You're a huge disappointment. Republicans need to be more Machiavellian. They need to know how to use power and how to maintain power. They cannot do this. I mean, they are, but they should not do this. And Republicans are constantly trying to be, look at us, we're so good, we're so nice, we're so amazing, we're so pure. We will never stoop to their level. We won't be corrupt. No, we won't be corrupt. We will be very pure. We will do everything that needs to be done accordingly. Law and order, yay. That's another bloated term. Law and order. What a bloated term. It's basically subservience to the government, even though it is incorrect, even though it is immoral, even though they, I don't know, let's just take the COVID vax mandates. That's law and order. It's the law, so you gotta follow it. What do you mean, law and order? It's just a bloated term. Moral laws should be followed. Immoral laws should be discarded, should be thrown out, should be taken care of. But no, here we are. Here we are with the purists. They are the nice conservatives, the good ones, the ones who have gotten us nothing throughout the years. They've been in charge all this time, and they've gotten us nothing. Republicans need to get wise to what's going on here. And until then, they're going to be labeled insurrectionists. And we've seen, and by the way, Democrats have been doing the same kinds of crap the Republicans did on January 6th. They've been doing that beforehand, and they have been doing that afterwards. And by the way, why aren't Democrats called president murderers? Almost every murderer of a president or wannabe murderer of a president was either a leftist, basically, or was not affiliated, or an anarchist, which is another leftist ideology. Anyway, long story short is that why don't Democrats get that stereotype? They should. I mean, they get to call Republicans whatever they want, but Republicans can't call Democrats whatever they want. No, we got to be pure. So, throwing out, let's change this up and go back, and we will probably end this within the next 5 minutes, but let's just change this back to what is happening in Colorado. They've decided to throw Donald Trump out of the primary and out of the election. So this could be appealed, of course, blah, 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 all of that. But that is not the point here. The point is, we're going to appeal this and everything's going to work out. No. That's not how this goes. Republicans need to get wise and start doing the same kind of crap. Throw out a Biden presidency by saying, no, you can't win Texas. You just can't. No, just do it. Do it in Florida. Do it everywhere in all Republican states. Well, this could lead to civil war. Guess who started it? And guess who has all the guns? But let's not even talk about that. Guess who started it? You started it. You have to live with the consequences of your actions. Here is the thing that makes a liberal. They don't have to live with the consequences of their own actions. You want to know what the fundamental thing that makes a person liberal, what helps them maintain their liberal status, what helps them in their quest to liberalism, is that they don't have to be confronted by the consequences of their own actions. Once they are confronted with the consequences of their own actions, once they have to suffer under their own rule, once they have to reap what they sow, you would see how quickly Democrats start saying, well, we can't do this. The same as Ron DeSantis did in Martha's Vineyard. You just gotta love that. Regardless if you like or hate Ron DeSantis, that was a epic, great move. They were calling themselves a sanctuary city, sanctuary town, whatever. And they said that, no, we will, of course we will. They were openly mocking Texas, saying, no, we should be letting in all the illegals. Okay, here you go. Here is the illegals you so desperately want. No, we can't have that. And stupid sissy Republicans, for some reason, can't do the same that Martha's Vineyard did. They brought down the National Guard. In other words, they brought down the military and deported them. Why can't Republicans do the same? Deport. See, Democrats can do that. Republicans can't. Who gives a crap about the rules? The rules, these are the rules. Democrats don't follow the rules. Rules are good when they're moral and when everybody follows them and everybody adheres to them. But if not everybody adheres to them, only one side, then it's not a rule. It's a hierarchy. And between hierarchy and anarchy, which I hate both, hierarchy in the right context actually is a correct form, but in this context, it is terrible. So I would rather live in anarchy where everybody gets the same political advantage. Why disadvantage our own side? That doesn't make any sense. So Republicans need to get wise to this. They need to stop being sissies and be as Machiavellian as they can and start making the Democrats suffer under the consequences of their own actions. And the Democrats, they decided that 6 Democrat-appointed judges could just throw off Donald Trump. Okay, well, your guy's not going to win in any Republican states. And if that leads to certain uncomfortable outcomes, guess whose fault is that? And we didn't want this. We didn't ask for this. We just want to live in a normal world with normal politics. We just want to live in a world where we don't start new wars, where we don't start new proxy wars, we don't kill. We don't want to live in a world that you guys have created. But you're just not letting us. So it's time that we play the same game they are playing. All right, I guess that we can end this episode right here. I thank you very much for listening to this episode. Please, the most important thing you can do is share. If you want to reach out to me at AaronPolitidoxy on Twitter or politidoxy@gmail.com on email, or Aaron Friedman on Instagram. Leave please 5 stars or subscribe if you are on YouTube. Leave a comment. That is one of the most important things, again, to help with the algorithms. And again, the most important thing you can do is share, of course. And with that all said, thank you for listening to this episode. And remember, my fellow radicals, stay political. Goodbye.